Story 46. My fiancé asked for an open relationship after the lockdown. Part 2 of 2. As soon as Emiko floated the idea, I was on board 100%. We went to my office and pulled out my hard copy of Judy's trip. After a quick discussion, we decided to take a different flight than our significant others. Emiko wanted to go all out, so we got first-class tickets on Hawaiian Airlines, and Emiko said we should get a room at the same hotel. With a glint in her eyes, she said, "See if you can get the honeymoon suite, her treat." This confused me since I would assume there is only one bed in the suite, but I'm sure we could make arrangements. I called the hotel, and we were locked in. With a last dig, Emiko said to book our return flight on the same plane, but keep us in first class. As soon as everything was booked, Emiko sent me her part of the money for the trip, and we celebrated by going out to dinner at Judy's favorite Italian restaurant. After dinner, we parted ways and I headed home. When I walked into the house, I found Judy waiting for me. She asked where I had been, and I told her she should have just checked my location as I went upstairs to the office. I'm sure Judy would have checked, and she would know that my location was now turned off. I was still pretty shell-shocked at the whole situation, but I'm not the kind of person who likes getting played. Over the next month leading up to the vacation, Emiko and I spent a lot of time talking, meeting up for lunch, and just hanging out. Since both of us were remote workers, we could chat basically whenever we wanted. Emiko turned out to be a charming person with a quick mind and a fantastic sense of humor. Judy had been spending a lot more time working late and hanging out with friends, and there were days that she slept at her parents' house because she was out so late that the new deadbolt was locked and she couldn't get back in. This caused some major arguments, but she quickly learned that she was on her own if she missed the 11 p.m. deadline. I did not relent even once. Emiko's more direct approach was to just tell Derek she was busy with work and, unfortunately, didn't have any time for him. She finally suggested that he take some time off and visit his family before his work trip. Derek seemed a little put off by that, but said he could find ways to keep himself busy until her work allowed her to spend time with him. Her counter to this argument was to actively avoid interactions with him for any reason. Emiko and I spent a lot of time together. We spent time talking and walking around the local parks. Then we did some pretty serious clothes shopping. Emiko helped me pick out some appropriate vacation and formal wear for a special occasion that we were planning in Maui. As you can imagine, Emiko and I were becoming very close friends. One day, I asked Emiko if she believed that Judy and Derek had been hands-on physically yet. Emiko said she was able to get into Derek's phone and seen lots of sexting and lots of dirty talk about he was looking forward to finally being able to be with Judy. It sounded like they were planning for their first time to be romantic tryst in Hawaii. The perfect place for them to build their love. Emiko got a good laugh out of that and wouldn't tell me what was so funny. She just said I would find out at some point, and she didn't want to ruin it for me. The month flew by quickly, and D-Day arrived. Judy told me she was going to take some time to go see family and friends outside of California, and would be back in a week. I was able to get my hands on her phone one night when she came home and showered before heading out on her nightly dinner or movie date with Derek. I did look at her pictures and found a few nudes that she'd taken for Derek. I then sent myself a new request to find my friends, since she already broke one of the rules by deleting it. To be clear, she was required to keep her location services on. I was not. I put her phone back just where I found it and sent the pictures to Emiko for safekeeping. She just laughed and sent me a picture of Derek taking a photo over his shoulder into a mirror showing his backside. I can't unsee that. Judy woke up early the next morning, around 5 a.m., grabbed her suitcase and left the house, telling me she loved me deeply and would be back in a week. She used an app to get a ride to the flyaway at Van Nuys. I'm assuming she met up with Derek since Emiko texted me about the same time to say he'd left the house. Emiko invited me to breakfast so we could plan out the rest of our day and offered to come and get me. I showered and was ready by the time Emiko knocked on my door. When I opened it, she smiled, gave me a surprising quick kiss which she'd never done before. Taking me by the hand, she started up the stairs. I was a little confused until she brushed the straps of her dress off of her shoulders. Her entire dress just slipped to the floor as she continued up the stairs. She led me into my office and pushed me down onto the bed and crawled on top of me. She pulled at my shorts and I helped her take them off. She looked down and said, "You better not hurt me with that." I got a good laugh at that, and I'll let you use your imagination on how we spent the next couple of hours before really going to breakfast. After eating, we went back to my place and picked up my suitcase and headed back to her place to get her stuff. We made our afternoon flight to Maui and just enjoyed each other's company. It was one of the most blissful days I've ever had. Our flight landed on Maui, and we quickly got our rental car and headed to the hotel. When we got to the hotel, we checked in under Mr. and Mrs., my last name, and headed up to the honeymoon suite. Oh man, I can't even begin to tell you how amazing our view was. The curved glass overlooking the ocean from the very top floor of the hotel was breathtaking. Emiko stepped up beside me, looking out over the ocean and leaning against me, resting her head on my shoulder. Her arms snaked around my waist, and she said she wanted to show me something. Taking my hand, she led me back to the bedroom. A blur of time later, I'm showered and dressed up in my evening attire, looking at myself in a mirror, trying to get the tie balanced. Emiko walked up in the most stunning silk dress that you have ever seen. The way it perfectly draped across every contour of her body and tantalized the eye with a hint of what was underneath took my breath away. As I stood there like a dummy, she reached up, adjusted the tie, and kissed me deeply. I checked my phone to make sure that Judy was still in the hotel, and sure enough, she was. We had called the restaurant reservations desk early and checked in on our travel companions to see if they had made dinner reservations. The restaurant gave us the time and told us to let the maître d' know if we wanted adjoining tables. It was time to implement our revenge. Emiko laughed and said, "Shall we?" With a little smile on her face, we left for the dining room. When you are in the honeymoon suite, you are treated like royalty. You didn't have to make a reservation in the hotel for anything. You just let the staff know when you'd like to eat, and they would make sure that your table was ready. Our table was in the center of the restaurant, 3 steps up on a raised platform, so it had an unobstructed view of the ocean. The part that worked out perfectly for us was that everyone in the dining area could see that raised seating area. As it turned out, we didn't need to. We were escorted right past Judy and Derek's table. Yes, we walked right past them. Judy had a strange, unhappy look on her face. There was something wrong. Derek had his face buried in his menu. Judy was the first to look up as we passed. There was a moment of confusion, then shocked recognition on her face and a sharp exclamation. "Jason? What are you doing here?" "Who's that?" Judy demanded, looking at Emiko. Emiko had her arm linked with mine, and she was smiling at Judy. I smiled and said, "Oh, hi Judy, wow, I didn't know you were here. I thought you were staying with your family." At this point, Derek had looked up from his menu and stared open-mouthed at Emiko. "Em, what are you doing here? This isn't what it looks like." Derek sputtered as he stood up to face his wife. Judy followed by standing up too. We paused just long enough to give them a smile and a little wave and started following the waiter again. Derek started to follow us, and Emiko turned back to him and said, "Seriously, Derek, don't be rude. Just enjoy your evening with your old friend from work," giving Judy a wink. We were seated, and Judy and Derek sat back down and leaned their heads close together. They looked like they were in a quiet argument, and you could see the tempers start to flare. They were both still shocked and kept glancing at us. Emiko and I sat and ignored them. We drank cocktails, had appetizers, and had a light, tasty dinner. Judy and Derek stayed the entire time, and I noted that neither seemed to have touched their food. The look Judy gave Emiko was so fierce that I was expecting her to charge over to our table. Derek had a haunted look and couldn't stop looking between his wife, me, and Judy. I'm guessing that Judy needed to explain that the man Emiko was with was her fiancé. We finished our meal, including dessert, since we had a captive audience. When we got up to leave the dining room, we walked past their table again, paused, and wished them both a good night. Emiko smiled and leaned in close to Judy and whispered something to her that turned Judy's face bright red. Judy stood up so fast that her legs hit the table, making the dishes rattle loudly. Emiko took my hand, looked at Derek, and spoke. I hope you two are happy. She leaned up, gave me a sensual kiss before our significant others, and giggled. Let's go back to the bedroom. We have to work off that dinner. Emiko literally pulled me out of the restaurant, and we went back to our room. We both laughed, and then Emiko looked at me and said she was so happy we met that she didn't even care about Judy and Derek. We spent the rest of the night making new memories. Much later, as we were watching the sun start to light up the eastern sky, I remembered that Emiko had whispered something to Judy, so I asked her what she said. Emiko blushed, paused, then said, I told her I was sorry that she had traded down so much. I hope Derek can please you with his little toy. She looked at me and explained that Derek wasn't very well endowed and that he had a tendency to be super sensitive down there. That wasn't a great combination for women. Emiko and I spent an amazing week in Maui, seeing the sights and doing everything we could to be outside in the fresh air. We took local dinner cruises, parasailing, and even rode horseback on one of the volcanoes. We never really saw Judy and Derek again and didn't make any plans to interact with them since our revenge was final. When we got to the airport, we walked from the lounge directly onto the airplane with the rest of the first class. We caught a glimpse of Judy and Derek waiting in the crowd for their boarding. On the plane, Derek tried to pause and say he was sorry to Emiko as they filed through the first-class seating area, but Emiko looked at him with a blank face and said, Derek, you're being rude again to your new girlfriend, and turned back to me. Judy never said a word, but her face said it all. The look of regret and jealousy played over her face as she shuffled past with Derek. As you can probably guess, Emiko and Derek were divorced as quickly as California law allowed, and the prenup was a kick in the face for Derek. He got nothing but what he brought into the marriage, half the shared bank accounts, his car, personal items, and half of all debt. Judy moved out as soon as she got home. She was simply furious with me over the fact that we had followed her to Maui and had the vacation she wanted. I was always super nice and tried my best to be pleasant to her, but I insisted that our time was finished when she tried to patch up our relationship. She tried to gaslight me about cheating with Emiko, so I smiled and gave her plenty of pictures of her correspondence. I even gave her a thumb drive with all the sexting videos that Emiko had captured with the home security. She cried the entire time she was packing her stuff, begging me to allow her to stay so we could work it out. She hit me with the, you can't just throw away 4.5 amazing years we were together for another woman. I politely reminded her we would still be together if she had not thrown away those 4 amazing years. She caught the correction I made. She continued to cry, and I even believed that deep down she was sorry. I didn't care. She made adult decisions and is taking adult responsibility for them. The first night in Maui, after we got back to the hotel room from dinner, I made a post on social media saying Judy and I had fallen out of love over the last year and had made the decision to move on. I wished her the very best on her next adventure. It took Judy a few weeks, but she changed her status to single, wished me all the best, and said she would always love me. Emiko replied that she's invited to vacation with us next year in Hawaii with Derek if they are still together. As you can imagine, that caused some pretty intense drama within our friends and families. It's now 2024, and we married at the beginning of the year. We have a baby girl on the way. We both have great careers, and with our substantial combined salaries, we are looking to retire early. I love Emiko with all my heart and soul. She was there for me, and I was there for her at the right time. Since we both live and work remotely, we plan to travel and see many parts of the world. We're giving some thought to working from Japan while our daughter goes to school there, allowing her parents to be in our daughter's life. I want our kids to grow up in Japan due to some of the craziness going on in the schools here. This has been fun to recount. Not all of it was great, like the heartache and stress I had early on with Judy's infidelity. Yes, emotional affairs are just as bad as physical ones. Saying that, I would not change a single thing. This led me to Emiko and our unborn daughter. To all of you dealing with cheating spouses, we as people are not perfect. You have to do what's best for you based on your individual situation and feelings. I know Judy still loved me, but in this case she tried to have her cake and eat it too. Derek was tall and handsome and seemed to have an engaging personality. My fiancé decided she wanted a taste of that. That's not a mistake. That's a decision she will have to live with for the rest of her life. I posted this as a way to let people know that there is a future out there for everyone. You will find happiness if you are true to yourself and act lovingly with the dedication it takes to make a relationship work.
I only post new and unique content. Please like and subscribe.